They're here. It's fun.
Hello, everyone. Welcome today. We're so excited to see you. I'm Jenna Paone from A Mighty Blaze, and today we have our founder and best-selling author, Jenna Blum, here and we're teaming up. It's two Jennas today, twice the fun, because we have the queen of women's fiction and, just goddess and pink-haired, princess that we aspire to be, Jane Green. We are so thrilled to have you. Welcome, Jane.
Oh, it's so nice to be here. Thank you. And I have to just start this off with a little warning. So my husband and I, our whole town, Westport, Connecticut, seems to be opening up. Everyone's going out and doing socially distant outside dining, and half the town are wearing masks, half aren't. So my husband and I have changed nothing. I mean, we are just changing nothing. We've seen no one, we've been nowhere. And I woke up this morning with a fever that's climbing and some GI issues. So I'm going to be taking you could be watching me catch COVID live on Facebook, or you could just watch me have a 24-hour bug, which is what I'm hoping. Oh, fever's going back up.
Oh, how much is your fever now?
Well, it's 100.6, but I run a point low because of thyroid disease. So my normal fever is much lower than usual. So actually that's probably quite high for me. But
how are you feeling? Are you feeling delirious with joy to see us, but also I
find that, well, it was really hard to get out the shower this morning because it was so hot and everything else was so cold. But putting makeup on and getting dressed, it's like, it's fine. It'll be fine. When this is over, I'm going to crawl back into bed.
Good. You are literally the most beautiful sick person I've ever seen in my life. I feel perfectly fine, and you look like 900,000 times better than I do. So, I genuinely hope that you don't have COVID. I hope that, I hope it's a quick bug. I hope it's something, freak occurrence, and you're going to feel better tomorrow. Obviously, we're thinking about you and your health, and we want to get you in and out. But
thank you. And I just need to say something. Thank you for that lovely compliment. One of my friends about a year ago said, do you wake up like this? I'm like, no, I look horrific when I wake up. And so then the next morning I texted her a picture of what I look like when I wake up, and it wasn't just a picture. It was sort of from my stomach with the computer on my lap. So it was chins galore and bedhead. So I might do that to the two of you tomorrow.
Please do. I'll do it like right now. We can all do it. I'll be like, look, this is what I look like from,
this angle.
Well, but hang on, but Jenna, I've seen you brushing your teeth and you look pretty damn good.
Yeah, I do have like a little toothbrush thread going with a friend of mine, and we send each other toothbrushing photos every night. This is like entertainment in the time of COVID. Yeah. But so meanwhile, I'm sending these photos and I'm like, oh, they're totally candid. Meanwhile, I'm like Facetune. So I don't have like big squirrel pouches around my toothbrush. Like this is our fun now, right? But I mean, Jane, if you have COVID, you make COVID look good. If you have a stomach bug, you make the stomach bug look good. You're all dewy and glowing. So it's like the COVID look. It's like it's dewy and feverish and
oh yes, maybe that's it. It's the fever.
It's the new makeup look. It's like the COVID glow. So I'm gonna give Jane her bio so that we actually remember that she's a survivor instead of just having like our slumber party. We are here today to celebrate Jane's latest book, which is The Friends We Keep. Jane has over 10 million books in print worldwide. All of you know who she is, and if you don't, you should. So why don't you? She is like the queen of women's fiction, the queen of the beach read, the queen of the books that I buy as a pre-order every time, because I know that whenever I read a Jane book, I'm going to love it. I'm going to be sucked into the worlds of people who I'm interested in and care about. And the stories are always focused on the people and their interactions with each other. And Jane, P.S., reads all of her own audiobooks. And from listening to her, it's like listening to like Princess Diana back from the dead, except better. So I routinely like stuff myself on Jane Green audiobooks, but I'm going to do your official bio now. So be prepared to get even more flushed. And I have to put on my glasses because I'm old. So here's your bio. Jane Green, this is from your website, is the author of 20 novels, including 18 New York Times bestsellers, 1 cookbook, which obviously we have to talk about, and various short stories. She's published in over 25 languages, has been part of the ABC News team has your own radio show on BBC Radio London, and has made regular appearances on TV and radio, including Good Morning America, which is, just like a staple of Jane's wake up routine. She just goes on Good Morning America. She contributes to a number of newspapers and magazines, has a weekly column in The Lady magazine, England's longest running weekly magazine, and is a graduate of the International Culinary Institute of New York. She is, as you guys should know from following her Instagram, which is fantastic, Jane is an avid cook, decorator, which on her site says amateur decorator, no, and passionate gardener. She used to have chickens in the backyard, who I met, is a regular storyteller for The Moth, and one of my favorite Moth stories is about Jane's almost infidelity, which was like one of my favorite stories
Such
ever.
a good article. That was
so good,
so
right?
Well,
And lives, as she said, in Westport, which is half open, half not open, and has been a COVID hotspot. And she has there her husband, whose name I know, but almost let out, but won't, out of respect for privacy. He's a lovely, like super lovely.
Oh, it's fine. You can absolutely say his name.
Ian, I love Ian. I love Ian so much. He's such a love. He's so great. He actually drove me to a train station once, like when I was on book tour, and we had like the best time talking. He, like you, is so menschy. You have a small menagerie of animals, including many cats. And also right now, you guys have your Brady Bunch of children living with you because of COVID, right? So you guys have a blended family of 6 children. How's that going?
So, excuse me. It's really interesting because on the one hand, it is glorious. I mean, this is such a rarefied time. And because, please God, we have not been touched by COVID, and I have to now touch wood. Mm-hmm. We're very protected. I love knowing that the kids are all home and safe. And but I think what's hard, there are a couple of things. First of all, like so many of us writers, I'm a huge introvert. I love people. I love being around people. But my home is the place that it's my haven. It's my sanctuary. It's where I come back to recharge. And there ain't a lot of recharging going on right now because 2 of the kids, they all cook. 2 of them have started a sourdough bread baking company, as has the rest of the world, it seems. But so there is a fine dusting of flour over everything. There are piles of shoes in every doorway. It's not the house it is when there are not, 8 fully formed people living in it.
And can I just say, and Jenna, I'm going to hand this off to you, but I need to say one thing about Jane's house and also ask a writer question, and then I'm going to let the other Jenna talk. We can never have too much Jenna, right? And it's
girl,
just
talk away.
Jenna for hours. Jenna for hours, Jane.
This flower. I want to know where her kids.
Oh, I know, right? Like, who is your flower source? But I have to say, those of you who do follow Jane on Instagram, and if you don't yet, you should, because it's such a feel-good thing. I stalk her on Instagram, but I was privileged enough to go to Jane's house on my last book tour. She calls her home Creaky Cottage, but it is not a creaky cottage. It is not creaky, and it is not a cottage. It's like this beautiful, she's like, it is, but it's not. It's this beautifully appointed home with like a view of a pond and a dock, and there were chickens in the backyard. It was like heaven, basically. So I'm like, I am now spending time in heaven with Jane. Her home actually looks like it does on Instagram. So those of us who like tidy up our homes and sort of face tune our homes to put them on Instagram, her home actually looks like that. And her kitchen looks like the kitchen in Something's Gotta Give, which is one of my favorite movies. And I saw it on Insta before I walked into Creaky Cottage. And then I was like, oh my God, your kitchen actually looks like this movie and also looks like your Instagram. So it is like, it's so gorgeous. And I felt so lucky to be in Jane's warm circle of hospitality. I felt like I had been given like a massage and sort of for hours and hours, and I still carry this glow with me. So my question is, are you able to write at all right now with everybody at home? You write a book a year, which I'm kind of just like, because I don't actually do that. And I know you sometimes write out of the house with Danny Shapiro, right? In an office you guys share, but like you can't do this now, right? So how is that going for you?
Well, most recently I've gone back to the library, but I haven't worked from home. I haven't written books. I edit at home, but I don't do the original writing of the books and haven't done for 15 years. And also my office at home, where I do the editing and mailings and everything else, has been taken over by a child because this house doesn't have enough bedrooms. So I've lost my office. So this is our gorgeous bedroom. So I feel so grateful to have this amazing bedroom, and I'm tucked up in a corner. I will say for weeks and weeks, I couldn't write. I couldn't focus on, and I couldn't read. I mean, all these incredible books were coming in and I couldn't read any of them. I just couldn't focus. And I found myself spending hours each day going down that terrible Facebook rabbit hole of videos from the dodo, of animals being rescued. And
I did the same thing. That's all I watched were dodo videos.
The dodo videos. That was all I could do for weeks. And I'm very, very disciplined. You know, I always say that what I think you need to have a successful career is a PhD. But in my world, that's persistence, humility, and discipline. And you know, it's just never been a problem for me. And suddenly it was a problem. And I thought, well, I have a choice here. I mean, the world is upside down. I can either beat myself up for not being productive, or I can just be very gentle with myself, because you can't ever write. I mean, there was just too much fear and too much uncertainty. And I wasn't going to write about COVID, because you can't write about something when you're in it. And you know, you have to have some distance from it. Not that I'm even sure I want to write about it at all. So I have done very little writing, but the last couple of weeks I could feel it stirring again. Yes, so I actually finished the treatment for a new novel, and I'm working on a treatment for my first nonfiction book, which should be done this week. So.
When you say a treatment, what do you mean? I'm going to get into like writer sausage making a little bit here.
So I've never had to do an extensive treatment before. And also back in the day, you know, publishers, if you were somebody that they knew or you had a great track record, they wanted you. It didn't really matter what your sales were. And all that is completely different now. And so you are really only as good as your last book. And not only are you only as good as your last book, they also want to see the treatment for your next book to know that it's going to sell, although you can't possibly know, and people make mistakes all the time. This is the thing, it's such an unpredictable business. If there was a formula, we'd all be abiding by it and using it.
You have the formula. Like, you are the formula. Like, you are the best-selling formula. You
created the formula.
You are, like, Jane is the formula. All of her books are bestsellers, including The Friends We Keep, which PS is out in paperback. I think I said that, but I need to hit that gong again. But like, no pressure. Yes, thank you. Like, it's beautiful, beautiful book. The Friends We Keep. You guys should all get. And I want to ask questions about that as well. I told Jen I would stop talking, and I never ever stop talking. Ever. Like, I'm asleep.
Never gonna stop talking. It's
still talking.
No, we want to hear about this though. We want to.
I do. Like, I feel like, okay, no pressure though, right? So even, I think this will be interesting to our writer audience, that even a multi-mega bestseller like you still has to think about not only what was the track record for my last book and how is my publisher going to react, but also what is the idea going to be for my next book, and will it sell? And do you have the thing that I do where, I mean, I write a book every 5 years as opposed to every year. I have humility and persistence, but not so much discipline. So I just have a PH instead of a PhD. But every once in a while, like, the reason it takes me so long is I'm test driving ideas, and I want to make sure that the idea that I am going to be living cheek and jowl with for the next year to 3 years to 5 years is something that I really love. And sometimes that shape shifts. So what if you give your book treatment to your editor and your publisher, and then you decide, oh, that actually is not a creature I want to live with for that long? How do you push yourself through that?
So one of the things that I've noticed happening in the last few years is that editors are getting much more involved in not just the process of editing, but in actually trying to sort of shoehorn the story into something that they think will work. And I remember having a meeting with a former agent and my editors at the time, and they wanted a sort of family saga, but dark. They wanted one of the characters to have borderline personality disorder, and they were, you know, talking about their own experiences. And I sat in this meeting. I went, oh yeah, I sure I can do that. And I can write mine. I mean, if you give me a story, I can write that for you. I'm a professional writer, sure. And I went away and I sat with it for a few days, and then I thought, I don't want write this. I'm not interested in this. And I thought, I want to write a book about sisters and a really toxic mother, but not in a dark way, in a Jane Green kind of warm, curled up. I mean, yes, there are dark things, there always are, but there's redemption at the end. And so I never said anything to them. And I think I may even have sent them the treatment that they wanted from me. And then I sat down and wrote my own book, and it was The Sunshine Sisters. And honestly, the favorite books of mine of the 20 that have come out are The Beach House and The Sunshine Sisters. I love The Sunshine Sisters.
I loved that. I wrote to Jane, I had a galley of Sunshine Sisters, and I wrote to Jane about this and wrote her this horrifying, eviscerating, probably email, that I was reading it by my mom's pool in her gated community in Florida. And I was taking a break from caring for her while she was sick when she had breast cancer. And I wrote to Jane that it was the only ray of sunshine, that the book was so well named. It was the only ray of sunshine I could cling to at that time. And I thanked her for giving me a respite from something that was tremendously challenging and tremendously emotionally intense by taking me into another person's world, this pair of sisters who were struggling with their own relationship. And so it wasn't as though I was getting a total break from human emotion, but it was in a way that was palatable and gave me a rabbit hole. And I think that's what good books really do. Like, there's the hashtag now, books connect us, and it connected me in the most profound way to a world outside the one I was living in that was hard. So thank you for that. I know I talked to you about that afterwards, but it was such a wonderful thing. Like, Jane's fiction is not excruciating reading. It's not that I'm going to go down the atrocity rabbit hole like mine is, but it definitely offers you an escape.
Thank you for saying that.
There's a place for both, right? And, you know, I so appreciate being able to read about complex issues in a way that is also very enjoyable, you know, in the way that you do so well, Jane. You know, I mean, you really are this pioneer in this genre of women's fiction. I said that with the utmost respect as somebody who also writes in that space and greatly admires that space. And I'm wondering if that was a conscious choice from the beginning. You know, obviously Jemima J was a profound and groundbreaking book that, you know, when it came out. And I'm wondering if did you have a sense that that this was your genre and you were going to do this, or did it happen more organically?
Well, I was a journalist and I was a feature writer, so I was writing features and essays, and then I read High Fidelity by Nick Hornby, and I thought, well, gosh, you know, here is this author who's written a first novel about every man, but no one's done this for women. Of course, little did I know that Helen Fielding was sitting, you know, 2 miles down the road from me in her Ladbroke Grove flat writing Bridget Jones's Diary. And once Bridget Jones's Diary came out, everybody wanted more of the same, because actually in the 80s, women's commercial fiction had been very glitzy. It had been Barbara Taylor Bradford and Jackie Collins and Judith Krantz. It was all aspirational and these incredible lives, which were really fun. There was nothing real in them. And just a few of us at the beginning seemed to just capture the zeitgeist of a need for something real, and started writing about our lives and the lives of our friends in a way that was incredibly accessible, slightly aspirational, but not really. I mean, these were women who could be your best friends, your sisters, that we were writing about us. I never dreamed that it would, you know, hit or have the success that it's had. I kind of wish it had come to me later in life. I took it for granted so much, and I sort of wish that I'd been a little bit older and a little more circumspect. And I was talking to somebody recently who'd just been paid a fortune for a book. I don't remember who it was, but I said to them, and they were very young, they are very young, and I said, put the money away. Mm-hmm. Don't spend it, just put the money away, because you think that it's going to, especially at the beginning of your career, you're like, well, I'm only at the beginning, it's only going to go up from here, and we all hit bumps and roadblocks where suddenly our numbers dive, and in today's world, that's pretty frightening.
That's super good advice, actually, because I had like one book that was really successful and then other books that are more middle of the road in terms of their numbers. And my accountant, who is super, super smart, says you get paid once every 5 years. So we have to prepare for that. And, chucklehead, like buy, some real estate, like invest your money wisely if you're going to be a writer. That first success was that, I know it was like a bit surprising. What was the biggest surprise for you about that? How, like, in terms of it changing your life, what was the most life-changing thing about all of that sudden recognition and success?
I think it was the first time in my life that I felt enough.
I love you so much, Jake. I just have to say, I just do.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, it's really because I know, I know what I look like today. I've even grown into my nose. But I was not, if you had taken little Jane and picked her up and said, this is going to be, okay, I might cry now. And shown her the life she was going to have, she never ever would have believed it. I mean, I was a child who was very shy, very awkward. I didn't feel that I fitted in, which I think is very common with writers. It's why we become writers. We're observers. We're always standing slightly on the outside. But I'd had a great career as a journalist, but this made me feel enough. And I think actually a lot of that had to do with the way my parents treated me. And I think that it was the first time I felt seen by them.
Oh, interesting. I have this family, my grandfather would say to me, go out there and make us proud, right? So the expectation in the family was that you would do things that were extraordinary, that it was not enough just to be enough, like good enough was never enough.
Right.
If you were playing the piano, you had to win competitions. If you were writing books, they had to be bestsellers. And so we all strove for this in my family. And I feel when you grow up with this kind of thing, I don't mind having had that bar to hit, because I talk about this with my writer friends a lot. Like I'm saying, like, it's whatever your dream is, it's your dream. I will help you achieve it. At the same time, my dream has always been go big or go home, right? Like I am going to damn well try to get the Pulitzer with every book I write. And if Dear Colson Whitehead stops winning Pulitzers, like maybe I can get one at some point in about 80 or 90 years. But I feel as though also what that does is it does give you a bar to hit, but it also means that your validation comes from outside and comes from your achievements and your career successes, as at the expense sometimes of how you feel on the inside.
Yes, I think that is absolutely true. And I think what's so fascinating about being at this stage in life, and I'm writing this nonfiction book about being in your 50s and sort of finding out who you really are, is you realize how inconsequential it all is. I mean, just none of it matters. What matters is how you perceive your life. It all starts with you. Life is life. Life is throwing stuff at you. It doesn't actually matter what achievements. And also the other thing is, so many of us, myself included, are inclined to we move the bar every time. So, oh my God, if my book gets published, then I'll be happy. The book gets published, you're like, oh, I don't feel any different. Well, if my book made it into the bestseller list, well, if my book made #1, if my book became a movie, like you constantly move the goalposts, and because you're never, nothing outside yourself is ever going to make you happy.
So Jane, how do you step away from that outwardly go big, go home, moving the goalpost mindset to be able to write? Because I think one thing that paralyzes writers is that fear, right? Of like, what if this doesn't turn out the way I'm hoping? Like, what if all my hard work doesn't work? But you have to, in order to write. You can't sit there and write the book if you're thinking about that. Do you have any tricks other than, the wisdom and everything? Obviously, clearly you are a very self-aware and self-assured person. Do you have any little tips for how you step away from that mindset and get the work done?
Well, I think the big thing is, if you are a writer, it's because you're driven to write. if you're writing because you want to make a fortune, no, sorry. No, but if you're writing because you want, whatever it is, you want fame and fortune and the acclaim, that's not going to work. You can only tell the story that you can tell. And I know a lot of people, I mean, if I hear one more person who's like aspiring writers generally, but who's working on something called the COVID Chronicles or the Coronavirus Chronicles or the COVID Diaries, like everybody's saying it's not that interesting. Because what it is, there are people trying to sort of capitalize on a situation. Your stories need to come from you. They need to be the stories that you think about, the stories that keep you up at night. And if you're writing the story that's true for yourself, what happens doesn't matter. It's not about being published, it's about getting those words on the page. Because another thing is, because we're such introverts, we have countless stories happening in our head all day, and actually the only way to quiet the squirrels is to let them out through our fingers.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more with that. Let's talk about your stories. Okay, so let's talk about specifically the Friends We Keep, because that's really what we're celebrating today. And can we see the cover one more time, please? So the paperback is now out, and we want to encourage you, if you have not read it yet, please do. It's such a great book to pick up right now. All of Jane's books are the right books to pick up with now. I'm almost jealous of people who haven't read your books yet, because they have all of these books to go and read and make them happy right now. But can you give us the elevator pitch, the summary of the Friends We Keep?
I can. And can I start by a little inspiration story of how it came about?
Please do. Oh my gosh, we'd love to hear that.
Okay, thank you. As we are, my youngest kids are about to turn 17, so we're going to be empty nesters, please God, sometime soon. And realize, gosh, here I am. This was a couple of years ago. I'm turning 50, and what does the second half of my life look like? And one of the things I realized about my own life is that it is much more isolated than I ever expected it to be at this stage. And partly, obviously I'm a novelist, we crave solitude, but we also crave, as a human being, we crave connection. And I'm just as bad. I mean, heaven forbid my phone should ring. I look at it in horror thinking, what's the matter with you? Why can't you text me like a normal person? So we're all sort of hiding behind our screens and texting and sending these gorgeous emojis, but what we're not doing is truly connecting in real time. And of course the irony of this is, look what's happened. So I started to think about isolation and what life might look like in the second part. And I thought, we'd go out for dinner with friends and say, hey, once our kids leave home, why don't we buy like a piece of land or an old farm somewhere, and we can all have our own tiny house. Mm-hmm. And then we can have a big communal barn with a kitchen and a living room, so we can be by ourselves if we want to, but we're going into what Jung called the end of life with the people we love the most. And everyone I spoke to said, oh my God, I love that idea. And so of course the beauty of being the kind of novelist I am is I can sort of try these out in the form of fiction. So I created 3 characters who meet at university in the UK, although I've lived here for 20 years, so my books are mostly based here now. But they happen to, 2 of them are from America, one's English. They meet at university in the UK. They form this unbelievable friendship, the kind of friendship that is going to last forever and ever. They live together. They say that, one day they'll live together again. But of course, life gets in the way. The years go by, they find they see each other, less than it's a Christmas card, it's a Facebook shout out, it's nothing. And then on the eve of their 30th reunion, they find each other again. They all show up to the reunion, and for whatever reason, they're all by themselves, and they decide to try living together again. What they don't know is that one of them, and possibly more, but at least one of them has a big secret from the past that threatens to derail this idyllic life that they think they now have. That's the Friends We Keep.
That just sounds, I have read it. It's a wonderful book, but doesn't that just sound like something that would be much more fun to dive into than the news right now? Like friendships, secrets, years of history, you know, all of those things, and complex relationships. So fun.
And warmth. I think the sort of signature thing that runs through my novel is an emotional resonance and a warmth. And I think that's just me. And I love what Jenna said earlier, actually, about reading The Sunshine Sisters when her mum was sick, because I do think, you know, when we're going through really frightening, scary, painful times, that's when we want fiction to comfort us.
Absolutely.
I feel as though also, Jane, you're like, I'm thinking about your commune, and we'll ask you who you're going to have at that commune. And I'm inviting myself also to the commune with you and fake things. So everybody just saw me invite myself to Jane's commune. I'm going to be the creeper in the bushes being like, I see your commune. You mentioned this on that one Zoom call, and here I am with my
honestly,
I'll be right there with you, Jenna. We can like get the bushes with like the hats on, you know, like, but they have hydrangeas on them because they're
like, and she will do it too. Like, we'll both do it. I mean, but the thing is, like, Jane, you invited me once to do this, and like the last few years have been sort of vicissitude years for me. And Jane has said to me, like, texted me, you know, and said, like, if you ever need a place to come and write, like, you can come and write with me, and, you know, my house, and I'll make you some tea. And you know how you have people who offer these things with good intentions, but you know that it's not something you're going to take them up on. Like, I believe this about Jane. Like, if I were ever in the kind of dire straits where I'm like, I am going to leave my home because X and Y is happening, and I just need comfort. I just need the company and the connection, but with another writer, so that we understand that we also need the solitude. I feel as though Jane is like, I would take you up on that. Like, I believe the offer was not hollow. And I also feel that you are like one of my safe places in the world. Like, you have some people who are your safe places. So when I describe Jane to people, I'm like, she's so elegant. She's so glamorous. She has this rock star pink hair that we need to talk about. She's a multi-mega bestseller. And she also is so warm and so genuine that I literally would go stay in her home if she invited me to be there. And I feel like your books are the same refuge for your jillions of readers who get that same sense of warmth and safety communicated in the pages, even though the characters are undergoing their own vicissitudes. So,
darling, I don't even know what to say with such a glowing endorsement. I'm just going to actually transcribe that and put it on the cover of every book I write from here on. Something I should do, but I didn't because I was so excited. But I've been asked to do a proposal for a writing retreat, like a sort of writing retreat, literary workshop thing at a luxury hotel in the Caribbean. And they asked,
we're there. We're joining.
Wait. No. Well, JP, I don't know you as well, but so they've asked me to put together this proposal, and it's over several years, so it sort of builds, and there's a food element to it because this has.
Oh, I'm a big food
person. Your name went in the proposal. I apologize.
I love that.
Actually, I just really, and I just thought, okay, who do I love? Who would I want to spend a week with in a gorgeous, sunny, hot climate?
Who wouldn't want to spend a week with Jenna Blum?
Oh yeah, many people probably, but we won't invite them to our Caribbean retreat. I'll be out there with my bikini and my cellulite. I'll be adding to with my puddings and cakes and pies. You know, it's good. I would love to. Thank you. I'm totally there. I'm also bringing Jenna. We're going to have like, and by the way, I should say that Blaze is having like a beach weekend at summer solstice, which is June 20th. And Jane has agreed to come and be in Jenna P's beach weekend. So we're going to have like beach read queens. And so we're all going to promote this by wearing.
Have you got Ellen? Have you got Ellen Hildebrand?
We're working on her. We're working. We're trying. We're getting her.
Okay, I love that girl. I mean,
you know, honestly, we Nancy Thayer just confirmed today. You know, we have like wonderful people. We're going to do the full announcement on that, but we are so thrilled to have you, Jane, for that and to celebrate. You know, these are selfishly the books that I love the most. So I was like, let's do this because this is actually why I decided to start writing, was because of you and Ellen and women like you that you know have created these books that I love. And for years I read these books that I thought I was supposed to read, you know, because they were the serious dark books, and I was a smart woman and I was supposed to read these, and I started reading books I actually loved, and I was like, wow, this makes my life better, and I really love these, and this is you know.
I thank you for saying that. I have long believed there's absolutely no shame in whatever it is you choose to read, and frankly I think anybody who's had this kind of longevity in a career is not writing fluffy trash, because that doesn't last. And I also I don't like pretentiousness of any kind, so I hate that, you know, oh well, of course I'm reading the new blah 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 blah, and I'm quite careful about what I read, but there are my favorite authors are ones that probably cross the literary and the commercial. So Jenna, you're one of them, Kathleen Shine, A.M. Holmes, Jean Hans Korelitz, and they really compelling, fantastic stories, often with a sort of family, a strong family, or an unlikely family dynamic. So it's disparate people coming together to form a family, which is what I'm always writing about, but writing in such a beautiful way. And I think there should never be any shame in you know, reading.
I so agree. I don't think there's a difference between literary and commercial. Like in that sense, I think it's just as hard to write something I think in some ways it's harder to be funny and warm and heartfelt than it is to be severe and shocking. You know, it's too flipped, and there's a place for all of it in everything, but you know, it's what you love is. You are just amazing, Jane. I have to ask about the pink hair, because I want everybody to know.
Food.
Yes, and food. I know we have all these things in common: food and the makeup and the home decor and all these things that Jenna and I are also both so interested in. With this, what we talk about. All we do is talk about food when we're together.
And
hair and eyebrows and eyelashes
and highlighter.
But can I ask about your hair and when you decided to start coloring it pink? It's just so fun. It looks so good on you. And like, it looks so amazing, and it's just the best, happiest. It just makes you happy.
Thank you. It was, my daughter was out doing some errands last summer, and I was scrolling through something probably on Facebook, and I saw a picture of a woman with pink hair. It was actually it was a commercial for glasses, and this woman had this kind of rose pink hair, and I thought, oh my God, that looks fantastic. And I've long done this, changed my hair thinking that I would look exactly like the actress. So starting at 18, Top Gun, I needed to look like Kelly McGillis, and I cut my own. I have naturally very curly hair. I cut it off to so it was her bob, and I went to the local pharmacy and got some crappy package of home hair dye, and I ended up looking more like Big Bird than Kelly McGillis. But it hasn't stopped me. I mean, I've done that many times, and I did it again this time around thinking, oh, I'm going to look just like this gorgeous woman. But actually, as soon as I did it, I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, oh my God, I never knew that I'm a natural born pinkhead. And I just realized this is much more me than the caramel honey blonde highlights. The only other thing I'd like to try is platinum blonde. I'd quite like to go like proper white blonde, which I sort of have to do under the pink anyway. So maybe I'll see how.
It totally matches you. I mean, it fits the fun. It fits, you know, the glam, the glitter so well.
And that's the thing. I think for, you know, part of what this new nonfiction book is about is also, you know, because of my not feeling enough and my feelings of inadequacy, I've spent my whole life trying to fit in and trying to look like everybody else, even when I clearly was not one of them. And you know, I bought the clothes that everybody else bought and the handbags and all of a sudden at 50, I thought, hey, hang on, actually, I want to have pink hair. And you know what? I don't like expensive earrings. What I really love is giant vintage 70s earrings and like vintage 70s sunglasses. And I almost showed up in a caftan, but sweep me back to the 70s every time. That's what makes me happy. I don't care about labels. And I'm actually really loving sort of figuring out, well, who am I? What's also interesting is because I'm no longer trying to be like anybody else and I'm really figuring it out, I'm attracting the right people in my life. I mean, obviously my husband is amazing, but friends, my friendships underwent a change, and I've found just extraordinary people because our kind of frequencies are on the same level now.
Do you feel like the people are more supportive and more positive? What is the biggest change? I mean, I'm not throwing shade at your former friends, but what is the biggest change in your new friend circle?
Actually, it's more, I mean, there was only sort of one person really that I thought had been a really good friend, and then realized, and it's not even her fault, you know, there were jealousy issues, which for me is untenable in a friendship. There are, you know, for the deal breaker is jealousy, because especially when it's over an Instagram account, you know, because we all know, those of us who have, you know, it's not real. I mean, if we're posting pictures of us looking like we're having a fabulous time with glamorous people, it's because it's the one time that month that we've went out and we're trying to capture it, because we got, I don't know what to post on Instagram anymore. I've got no idea. But this girl was sort of watching it and just feeling less than, and I realized there's no place to go with that. Actually, you just can't. But I have found over the last few years a couple of girlfriends that are the kinds of girlfriends that I haven't had since before I was married. You know, they're the kind of girlfriends that you have in your 20s, where you speak every day, multiple times a day. And sometimes you're just phoning up to say, oh my God, I completely messed up my eyelashes today, look. And they go, oh my God, that looks awful. Here are mine. You go, okay, love you, talk to you later. And that's it. And it's that. Lisa Lampanelli is one of them, the comedian. Another one is a writer who is about to go out with her first novel called Emily Friendship, and she's amazing. She's also English, so we have that in common. But you know, the writer Johann Hari basically writes about the true meaning of loneliness is not the amount of people that surround you, it's not sharing anything meaningful with anyone else. And I think because I was on a different wavelength with a couple of these women, they were great social friends, but what I didn't have was those women who with whom you have real soulful connections, who are also in your hood, because that's really important. There are lots of people I love in Boston, you know, around the country, in England, but they're not right here. They're not the people that I can hop in the car with and drive over and just say I'm having a bad day. And I think there's something very special when you find all of the important deep stuff and they happen to be near. Oh, it doesn't get better.
No, that's why I'm coming to live with you in the commune.
Yes, and I will welcome you with open arms.
Thank you. I think it's there too. I'm having all the feels and all the thoughts about what you're saying. One of them is that I love the 40s and the 50s because I think they're the power decades. And as I approach 50, I'm just thinking, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't give a shit what I was supposed to do or what somebody thinks or whatever. It's the first pivot point in my life where I'm asking myself, what do I really want? Because you start to become cognizant that your life is not of unlimited duration. And so asking yourself, what do I want, as opposed to what was I supposed to want?
Right.
It's a sort of, it sounds very selfish, and I'm aware that it's incredibly privileged. It's like a very first world question. At the same time, I think, well, I am in this position. How can I pay it forward? What are the ways in which I can help other people having gotten to this point in my life? But also, what do I really want, as opposed to what I was told I was supposed to want? And I find that so liberating. And I do think that the more self-assured you get, or the more, I guess, because that sounds too cocky, but like the more in touch with yourself you get, and the more you accept yourself, the more you're able to reach out and be emotionally intimate and vulnerable with other people, as opposed to putting up a curated wall, whether it's in person or on Instagram.
And it's the vulnerability, it's the being real, that allows people to connect with you. And I do think that COVID's been interesting, because I think it's thrown us back to a pre-Instagram time where we don't want perfection anymore. We don't want influencers who are face tuning everything. And so what we don't mind a bit of that, because we always like a bit of aspirational stuff, but what we really want is authenticity. And I think something else happens in your 40s as well, which is very similar to what you're saying, which is that in your 30s, the world is your oyster. You still, you know, you're having babies, maybe you're finding relationships, your career is still totally on the upswing and life is amazing. And what happens in your 40s is you suddenly start to realize that actually life is quite hard, and it's a bit of a shock. You know, parents get ill, die, friends die, you know, grief, raising children, just things happen that are really, really hard. And I think what it does is at some point, probably in your late 40s, is you start to realize that you are not immortal. You start to come to terms with your own mortality. And I think that's really what happens in your 50s. You're like, I'm actually not going to be here forever. I thought I was. I'm not as strong as I thought I was. And I don't care what people think. I'm gonna do me.
Jane, is that what prompted you to write this nonfiction book? Is that one of the things I'd love to? I know we had actually some questions from the viewers about that. Could you tell us a little more about the project and how it came about?
Yes, actually it was suggested by a former agent of mine, but as soon as they said it, I thought, oh, that's actually a brilliant idea, because I started my career as a journalist writing essays and features. So for me, nonfiction writing is it's actually more natural for me than novels. And I realized he just sort of suggested it as an idea without giving me any guidance, but I thought, oh, there is so much I have to say about just getting older and getting older and getting happier, and you know, acts of service, gratitude, changing the neural pathways in your brain, things that I've actually had to learn because my mum and dad are in London, and please God, touch wood, they're fine. But you know, my mum is definitely you know, she's somebody who will sort of say, yes, it was lovely, but there's always a but. And I could feel myself going down that road, and I'm very quick to see the negative. And I've had to actually work on myself and create the habit of every time I feel myself going into a negative spiral, I literally stop and think of 3 things that I'm grateful for in that moment. And it actually snaps you out of it.
Oh, that's so great.
So it's part memoir, it's part, you know, the things that have inspired me, the things that have changed me. I've spent a lot of time in and out of 12-step programs, you know, whether that's dealing with my own issues, also, you know, codependency issues. I've gained quite a lot of wisdom, I think, over the years. And if one person can read it, it's also very much about the isolation of middle age and the need for true human connection, and how you know, we have to let our guards down to have that, she says, with shovel.
Well, it's so important, especially for women, because for so long women over the age of 40 have been just kind of cast aside by society, and I think we're finding that you're most interesting,
yes,
as the older you get. You know, I mean, I'm certainly more interesting now than I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I'm smarter.
It is interesting though. Martha Stewart didn't hit it big time until she was in her 50s.
Ina Garten,
yeah,
Julia Child. I have my list of women that have only improved with age, who I always look up to. And I think that's what's great about the book world, is that you're allowed to be a smart, beautiful, successful woman at any age, which is not, I come from the entertainment industry and from the film and TV and music industries, and that is not the case. When you're 25, you're too old.
Yeah.
So this is such a, you know, breath of fresh air, and I love speaking with women who actually are, you know, accomplished the way and celebrated for their accomplishments.
Well, can I share with you the title?
Yes, please.
Oh my gosh, please.
Well, so my working title for it was #Liberation, which I thought was really clever, but my agents, who, Jenna, you know, the delicious Alex, I love him so much, and the wonderful Wendy Sherman, Alex Glass and Wendy Sherman, I just could not love them more. But they weren't sure, they didn't like it. And then Robin, is it Robin Call or Robin Homer? Reading with Robin. I don't know.
She has many names, but she is the one and only literary fairy godmother, our interviewer, the Robin.
Your interviewer, she sent me a text and she said, I think she might have conferred with either Emily or Bert, her husband. I think one of them was involved. She said, we think you should call it me, Jane.
Oh, I love that.
Talking to my agents,
Robin, I love her.
And I was saying, you know, oh, I think I really like hashtag liberation. They were like, no, I think we need to find something else. I went, well, there is this idea from Robin, and I didn't know whether it was sort of brilliant or I just had no idea. But the minute I said it, they were like, oh, we love it. So I think it may be called Me Jane.
I totally love that. Also, like on Twitter, you can call it Me Jane and then have the hashtag liberation. So you can have the best of both worlds. Leave it to Robin to suggest a best-selling title. She's so fabulous.
Shout out to Robin, who we love so much. Jane, will there be any more little recipes in this book? I mean, I want to talk to you a little bit about cooking and what you're cooking now, if anything. I know there's like a Top Chef competition going on in your house, like nightly. I know you're an incredibly accomplished cook. Your kids clearly are as well. What are you making these days? Will there be more recipes?
There may well be in the future. I'm not sure how I feel about, although somebody did suggest it recently and really thought it was a great idea. And I've actually been gathering, because my whole thing, even though I went to French culinary school and I'm sort of slightly trained in very fine French food, that's not the food I like to cook. I don't have the time, I don't have the patience. I like easy, give me a sheet pan dinner, give me a one pot special and comforting food that makes you feel nurtured. But I have put together, just in my notes on my phone, I'm collecting COVID recipes. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they'll make it somewhere.
What is your number one comfort food ever? Like your secret comfort food?
My secret comfort food is probably got to be chocolate. I've got such a sweet tooth, but English chocolate, and specifically, I'm going to go for a Bounty, a Flake, or a double decker. With a glass of tequila to wash it down.
Right. From your flask on your arm.
The bangle.
My booze bangle, which I do not have on today.
Yes. Wow. I think that sounds delicious, actually.
That's what I need, actually. After this, maybe I need a hot toddy. Maybe I can get into bed with a hot toddy.
Tequila kills COVID. Yeah. I just made that up, but it's
okay. And
instead of drinking like chloroquine, we should all be drinking shots of tequila and killing any of the potential virus. Just toss the shots down.
Absolutely.
And we'll all be happy. Yeah. We'll be happier.
We should let you get to that hot toddy, Jane, because you have been so generous with your time, and we know you are not feeling well. We truly hope that you feel better so soon, and we can't thank you enough for being here.
I love you both, and what you're doing with The Mighty Blaze is just the ultimate in acts of service for all of the authors who have things coming out now and have just been sort of forgotten about. So you're amazing. Thank you.
All Jenna B's brainchild and Caroline Levitt, the two of them started this, and we all were like, how can we help? But they had the vision from day one, which is incredible to me, that I was, trying to wrap my head around all of this, and Jenna was like, I started a company, like an organization.
Who came up with that? Because I love that. Oh, it's good. It's good.
My the thing was, I was talking to, my response to outrage is always action, no matter what it is. And I was outraged that my friends who had been working on books were not going to be able to go on tour with their books, because that's the reward, as introverted as we are. Like, we need to get out at the end of that tunnel and meet people. And so I was talking to my friend Stephen Kiernan, who has a book coming out now in August called Universe of Two, and he works in his basement. And had been working there for 3 years in his basement, like getting all white like a toadstool, like not going outside. And he's like, I can't wait to go out and meet the people. I can't wait to see my people. We had planned this tour, like we had this whole thing, this big deal, these events with like, planned cat fights we were going to have, and then makeup on stage. And then of course COVID came and all the events got canceled. And I thought about just throwing up a Facebook page and saying, whoever is pubbing, I'm just going to throw their books up and try to reach readers. And books are like such little little things in a dark time. And I was thinking about Churchill saying the lights are going out all over Europe before World War II. We shall not see them lit again during our lifetimes. And I thought, but maybe if we put all the books together, we can make a mighty blaze, like a big blaze, and direct readers to this one site so that they can see all the books coming out, and writers don't have to feel like all of their love, because we put so much love in the books. You don't want all that love to fall down the well. So thank you for helping us and bringing your beautiful pink Jane light to the blaze. Not just now, but other times. I'm going to hit you up as well as moving into your home.
And next time we're going to do makeovers.
Yes, we're doing makeovers and makeup.
Lashes and eyebrows.
Yes, but then highlighter.
Yes,
everybody like. Right, it's beautiful. What's your temperature now? Can you take your temperature for us? I'm concerned now.
And while Jane's taking her temperature, I just want to remind everyone once again to go pick up the paperback edition of The Friends We Keep. One of Jane's favorite indie stores, Barrett Books in Darien, Connecticut. Right? It's Barrett
Books in Darien. Yes, Barrett Books.
Barrett in Darien. Jane has suggested that. Oh, same. Right? Same. All right, we're gonna get you in bed, Jane. Said she may, even if she's feeling well enough, be willing to sign some copies for Barrett's for
absolutely. I will. I'll get in touch
from there. And also you can always buy it on Bookshop and support indies that way. Please just keep buying books, keep supporting independent stores, keep supporting authors who are making us feel better in these times. And thank you, Jane, for being one of those.
Thank you, Jenna. Love you. Mwah.
Thank you guys so much. Bye, everyone.